Welcome back to Locs Talk with Pammie. The question, can heat or bleach damage be reversed? I don't know. Can it? Let's talk about it here on Locs Talk. Okay, so welcome back. We are going to get into discussion talking about bleaching hair and heat damage and if it can be reversed. But first, before I get into that information, I'd like to remind you to do 3 small, tiny favors for me. Like, share, and subscribe. Please and thank you. Now let's get into it. Oh, by the way, that's my website down there. Go and check it out. Okay, welcome. Come on back in here. So I know you hear a little bit of raspiness in my voice. Yeah, I was under the weather all week, and I'm feeling better today. This is why I'm revising this recording of Bleach and Heat Damage. But you might still hear a little off and on with it and everything, so I apologize for that. Hopefully the microphone is picking up my voice as much as possible. I just want to remind you that this is education, information, caution. Everything I discussed today is researchable. Look it up, fact check, read your labels, all those reminders, okay? We're going to get into this discussion now and we're going to talk about it. Can bleach or heat damage be reversed? We shall see. So we're going to start by defining what bleaching is. What is bleaching? Bleaching is generally a chemical process that is used to lift and or strip your hair strands of its color and pigmentation. So that's generally what bleaching is. There's several levels of which you hear a lot of colorists talk about, oh, I lifted them to a level 7 or a level 8 or a level 10 or etc., etc. Basically, the higher, you're going to lift out more. So that's what they mean when they are using those levels, those colors in your hair. Generally, let's say if you start from black, it'll go from black to like brown and then red and then orange and yellow and then, it just gets brighter and brighter. So it's like several levels per color as it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. That is the bleaching process. But bleach is a chemical that is used in order to strip and or remove the pigmentation and or color from your hair. That is the process of what bleaching is. I mean, think of when you're doing your laundry. When you want to remove color or stains from something, what do we use? Bleach. So the same thing for the hair. It's just chemically processed. It's still a chemical and it's used to remove the color from your hair. That's what bleaching is. First and foremost, can bleaching damage your hair? Yes, it absolutely can. As stated previously, bleaching is a chemical process. So chemicals can cause hair damage as well as damage to your skin. The question now is, what kind of damages can bleaching cause? And this is where the caution and education and information comes in. This is not me telling you, oh, don't go and bleach your hair. The choice is yours. You do what you want to do. But go in with your eyes wide open with the information that you have. Okay? So we're going to start with the first one, side effect of bleaching. It can cause chemical damage to your skin. Remember, your scalp is your skin, right? So the chemical process of bleaching, if not done properly, which is why I recommend first and foremost to go to a professional when you are doing a bleaching process. And make sure the professional is a professional. Don't think because they just got out of beauty school that they are a pro at bleaching hair. Because I've seen videos where cosmetologists graduated and they're still doing a piss poor job of bleaching somebody's hair, like literally rubbing it into the scalp. You're not supposed to touch the scalp with bleach. Not supposed to. Not supposed to. Not supposed to. Not supposed to rub it in. None of that stuff. And I've seen it like stacked onto the hair. I'm like, what school did they go to? So yes, it can cause damage to your scalp, so much so that it causes chemical burns. And chemical burns can be pretty severe. Chemical burns are just as severe as flammable burns if you're burned by flames. Okay, there's first, second, and third degree chemical burns as well. And they're terrible. Okay, I've seen chemical burns that were caused by bleaching, and it's not pretty. And if it's permanent, it leads to a whole lot more, okay, including permanent hair loss. So yes, bleaching can cause damage, and if it's not done properly, it can be permanent damage. Let's move into the next one. I'm going to give you like 5 or 6 examples of ways that bleach can harm and cause problems with you, your hair, your scalp, even your pocket. Number 2, bleaching can cause extreme breakage, because what bleaching does, it breaks down a keratin compound in your hair, which is the protein that makes your hair strong. It makes your hair what it is. And when that gets broken down, it breaks the bonds, making your hair very fragile and breakable. I've seen people go like this on their bleached hair, and just little pieces of their hair is just breaking away and just falling off like little snowflakes. That's the kind of breakage I'm talking about, where your hair's just, there's no strength to your hair. I've seen people literally able to just snap their hair in half. This is why when you do go for a consultation to have your hair lifted or bleached or whatever, they do a strand test, because they want to test the tensile strength of your hair and see how well your hair can hold up in the keratin in your hair, how easily or difficult it is for the bleach to break it down, causing it to break. Okay. Oxidative stress happens again to your hair follicles, to the point where the oxidative process, which is what is happening to lift the color out of your hair, it can cause damage to your hair follicles, so much so that they become so stressed that they just let go of your hair, and your hair just falls right out of your head. Like, you've seen where videos where people are getting the bleach washed out of their hair, or they're washing it out of their hair, and clumps of their hair is coming out as they're rinsing it. So it's not just the bleach coming out, but their hair as well. And this often happens, the oxidative stress often happens more often when people choose to do back-to-back chemical processes to their hair. I've seen it where a person would put what we call a perm or creamy crack, a relaxer, or even a texturizing your hair is a chemical process. And right after, like very soon after, if it's not the same day, within a week after, they will bleach their hair. And, you know, the hair follicles haven't rested from the last time that they had a chemical process done to the hair. And what happens is the oxidative stress of bleaching further damages the hair follicle, and the hair follicle is just like, I'll give up. And they just let go, and the hair just literally comes right out, straight out of the hair follicle. And hair loss, done, gone, gone. And it depends on how severe the damage is to your hair follicle, whether or not it'll grow back. Hair follicle, the damage to the hair follicle is we're going to talk about that when we talk about traction alopecia. But you got to be careful. You know, you can damage your hair follicles with chemicals too. Number three, the risk of badly colored hair. Now, this often happens more so with people who are not honest about their coloring history. You know, colorists Always do a consultation before they do your hair. It's very important that you attend and listen attentively to these consultations. A professional colorist always tells you everything that they're putting in your hair, why they're putting it in your hair, what it's used for, what's the cost for it. And the information you give them helps them to decide to do what's the most healthy thing there is to do for your hair. So if you don't tell them about certain things that you have done to your hair, for example, um, if a person used henna in their hair and they weren't sure if they used organic henna or uh, synthetic henna, and then they go get their hair bleached, and they don't tell the colorist that they had henna in their hair, and on top of that, it was synthetic henna, because there's a chemical process that happens when you mix bleach with synthetic henna, and it creates heat, especially after you put the aluminum foil on it. And that heat can cause second and third degree burns to your scalp. And you also lose your hair. So the dishonesty, it ain't your friend. There are also people who use hair box dyes on their hair, especially like dark colors like black and dark brown and things like that. And they'll put the box dye on their hair, or they had their hair bleached and colored, and then they put a box dye on it to try to cover it up, and then they won't be honest about what they did to do that. Oh no, this is my virgin hair. And then the colorist will proceed based on your word, and now you got a hot mess on your head, and you're like blaming them, but you are not honest about your hair history. Also, this can happen to virgin hair too. There's no guarantee that your hair is going to lift perfectly when you do a bleaching process on your hair. Sometimes it has to be done multiple times in order to reach the level and evenness that you are looking for. You get a lot of splotches and bleeding, and not bleeding as in blood, but like it can be a hot mess. So discoloration, no matter how professional a person is, can happen. A lot of times it's inevitable. You are extremely lucky if the first time out, nothing happens. Bravo to you. Bravo to you. But for the most part, from my experience, from what I've seen and witnessed, yeah, bleaching is not a part of my services, and that's by choice. Not because I don't have the knowledge or the information, it's just by choice. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Number 4, it increases the vulnerability of other damages happening to your hair. Your hair becomes very vulnerable to other things such as heat damage, not just from using tools and dryers and hair curlers and flat irons, but also from being outside in the sun. Heat damage from the sun, dryness, brittleness. You go to the beach and the pool and you wonder why your hair feels all like straw and hay. Your hair cuticles, it changes the hair porosity. Once you had flat, even hair cuticles that laid and protected your hair, now they're open and frail, and your hair has more difficulty retaining and holding on to moisture, so your hair becomes really dry and brittle. Your hair becomes extremely vulnerable to damage. And if you are not careful and maintaining your hair on a regular basis, the most simple thing can reverse all of that. And again, your hair is vulnerable and susceptible to other damage. So you can be doing all the right things to maintain your hair after bleaching it, and suddenly you get sick and you are incapacitated for a week. You could have been keeping up your maintenance forever. And just because you couldn't do your hair for a week or however long you're incapacitated, all of that gets undone as if you never maintained your hair. So those are things you have to keep in mind when you are making the decision to move forward. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. Again, caution, education, information. Okay. Number 5, damage to what? Not your hair, but your pocket. Maintaining hair after bleaching is expensive. You hear? I mean, it costs. From moisturizers to conditioners to more frequent visits to your stylist or colorist to keep up the color, especially if you want to keep it that color. What else is there that is more expensive? Now, here's the thing. I'm going to give you a short story. When I do consultations with my clients, especially my loc clients, one of the main questions I ask them is, oh, why locks? What made you decide to get locks? And the most popular answer, because I get several answers, but the most popular answer that I get is, oh, I want locks because I just want something as little and low maintenance as possible. And, locks are very natural and doesn't require a whole lot of work. And they're absolutely right. They don't. It's not no maintenance. It's extremely low maintenance, but it is some maintenance. But then in that same conversation, because all the questions are in a questionnaire, and further down the line, when I start talking about hair color and things like that, that question comes up. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, later on down the line, I like different colors and stuff like that. And I was thinking that I want to do my hair in like a nice bright red or, a vibrant color. Oh, okay. So I know that my hair is black and everything. So I know I'm probably going to have to bleach my hair in order to get to that color, right? And I said, well, probably, yeah, we'll have to lift your hair to, in order for it to take a bright, vibrant color. However, there's ways to lift your hair without bleaching it. Now, I think it'll be better if I bleached it because I really want it to be really bright. I'm like, oh, okay. So let me ask you, you said you wanted little to no maintenance, and now you're talking about bleaching your hair so you can have a really bright, vibrant color. The two don't go together. Oh, no, yeah, I could still maintain. No, you can't. Maintenance after bleaching your hair, maintenance after any chemical treatment in your hair is going to increase, even if you're dyeing your hair, because you have to increase the maintenance in order to keep your hair from getting dry and brittle from coloring your hair from dyeing as well. So any chemical treatment outside of the naturalness of simply just maintaining your natural hair is going to cost in order to maintain and keep it together. I'm just saying. So this damage is not to your hair, but it is to your pocket. And if you ain't, okay, and even though the best of them that has the money to maintain their hair, all it takes is that one time when you're incapacitated and you can't really keep up with your maintenance because unforeseen circumstances. I don't know what to tell you. I got nothing. So make sure you have everything, including the money it takes to maintain your hair if you decide that you want to move forward with bleaching your hair. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So to answer the question, can damage done by bleaching be reversed? The answer is no. Damage done from bleaching cannot be reversed. Why? Because the chemical process of bleaching hair destroys the keratin of the hair. The keratin is the protein and the structure that makes our hair what it is. And it gets destroyed in the process, the chemical process of bleaching hair. Okay? It gets damaged with any chemical processing, but bleaching is one of the most extreme chemical processes that is done to the hair, and it kills the keratin. And once the keratin is destroyed, the hair is destroyed. So maintaining it, have you ever seen the movie Death Becomes Her? If you haven't, go ahead and watch it. I think there's a book too, but it's about these two women who are really obsessed with being forever young and living forever. And it's this whole society of people that take this potion in order to be young and beautiful forever, never die, right? And these two women are so destructive. They end up dying. They don't take care of their bodies. And they think all they have to do is, put a little paint on it or whatever to hide the fact that their bodies are rotting and everything, because they're now the Walking Dead. Like, even if they get hurt where that should have killed them, they don't die. Not even a little bit of paint was covering that up, no matter how much they maintain themselves. In the end, they both wound up looking good and terrible. So the same thing can happen with bleach damage when it happens to your hair. Yeah, Death Becomes Her. Can bleach damage be reversed? No, it cannot. Sorry. The only cure is to snip and start over. It's unfortunate that in Death Becomes Her, they couldn't even do that. But you at least have that option. So let's move on and talk about heat. Okay, so now we're going to move into heat damage and what it can what it can do to hair and how it happens. Okay, heat damage on hair is caused by a number of things. It's caused by the sun. It's caused by extremely hot water. So washing your hair in extremely hot water is not the greatest of ideas. And this is also why damage is caused to hair when you go to get your hair braided and they dip your hair too far down into that hot water. The severe heat of that hot water causes damage to your hair too. Tools such as flat irons, curling irons, hot combs and stuff like that causes heat damage. And tools such as hooded dryers and handheld blow dryers also causes heat damage. Now, it's fair to say, oh, well, you could just use heat protectant. And understand something about heat protectant. Heat protectant is a great source to help prevent heat damage. However, it does not 100% prevent it. Heat protectant is not heat proof, it's heat resistant. There's a difference. Think about when you buy a watch that says waterproof versus waterproof versus water resistant. If you submerge a watch that's water resistant in water, it is still susceptible to be damaged by the water. A waterproof watch, however, is waterproof. There's no way water can get in and damage the watch, right? So heat protectant is heat resistant. It helps protect your hair against the heat as resistant, but it's not heat proof. It does not create a shield saying, oh, your hair is going to stay cool underneath it while all the heat is doing all other stuff. It doesn't do that. So what happens when heat touches the hair and it damages the hair? It also alters the keratin in your hair. It doesn't completely destroy it like bleach can, but it damn near comes close. Think about a grape. When it becomes dehydrated, it becomes a raisin, right? And no matter how much water you try to put back into that grape, it will never be the plump, juicy, round, beautiful grape it was before it became dehydrated and turned into a raisin. The same thing happens when your hair is heat damaged. The keratin A changes its into keratin B, which looks very much like, if you know how new growth looks after you had a relaxed end for a while and the new growth and you see your roots are all curly and stuff, and then you got the straight, scraggly looking ends from the relaxed hair. That's generally what heat damaged hair looks like. You have the hairy, the nice healthy hair, as you see in the picture that's right here next to me. It's all nice and healthy and plump and full and curly at the top, and then you got the little scraggly strings at the bottom. That's heat damaged hair, and that is not reversible. No matter how much water you see, the hair has been wet, and you can't replenish the hair once the damage is done. So to answer that question, can heat damage be reversed? No, it cannot. So we're going to talk about different ways heat damage can cause problems to your hair. And I'm going to read a little bit here so you understand. Exposure to high heat changes the shape of your hair keratin strand. Regular heat source to hair also dehydrates the hair, making it stiff, but it dries, and handheld blow dryers are notorious for causing dehydrated heat damage. Temperatures over 300 degrees Fahrenheit converts the A keratin into B keratin, which leads to a weaker hair that has lost its elasticity and becomes more prone to damage. Hot combs and flat irons and curlers are notorious for that kind of damage. With locks, the same effects of dehydration takes place from using the hooded dryers. So a lot of times when people go get their retwists and they sit under the dryer for 2-3 hours. Dehydration. Remember the great story I just told you 2 seconds ago. I'm just saying, okay? But the weakened hair and the loss of keratin from the heat weakens the hair breaks off. That's what causes a lot of severe breakage and flyaways and stuff like that from heat. So let's get more into that. So I'm going to go over a short list of other damages that can be caused by extreme heat or overage or too consistent of a use of heat. Overly used heat on the hair. Dryness and dullness. Your hair becomes really dull because, again, it becomes, because you're killing the essence of your hair. So dryness, dullness, split ends, breakage, frizziness, flyaways. That comes from, you see what flyaways are. Rough and changed texture, increased tingling. So, I don't know if you've seen people when they flat iron their hair and it's still hard to comb through, breakage and all of that stuff. That's because it's tangled together. All the break is stuff is still tangled together. And then finally, faded hair. So think about when we get sick. What happens to our skin? We become pale and faded and stuff. Same thing can happen to your hair. Get sick from the heat. It gets sick from the heat. Heat damage is pretty severe. And again, no, it can't be reversed. Snip, snip. Got away. The sooner the better, because you don't want that damaged hair to start affecting the healthy hair. So let's go through some tips on how to prevent heat damage to your hair. Starting with number 1, use lower temperatures. So like I said, I don't use chemical treatment, high chemical treatment, or high heat. I don't say no chemical or no heat. I don't use high chemical treatment or high heat when it comes to treating hair. However, one of the ways to prevent heat damage when you are using heat instruments is to lower the temperature. Okay, so when you are using like hair dryers, such as hand dryers and hooded dryers, as opposed to putting it on its absolute highest setting, you don't need to have it up that high. You just kind of, time is your friend, right? So you gotta, don't try to take the shortcut by turning the heat up. Like, again, it's like when I say when you're cooking a cake and you want your cake now, so you turn the heat up, thinking it's going to cook your cake faster, but instead you just burn the cake. The same thing can happen to your hair. Just because you turn the heat up don't mean nothing. You're just going to burn the hair. I've seen people go get their hair blown out or whatever. That sat under the dryer too long and their hair got charred. And then when they went to wash it the next time, you could literally smell the burntness of the hair. Any kind of moisture hits the hair, you could smell the burnt in your hair. You like, why I smell like burnt hair? Because your hair was charred by the dryer, and don't nobody say nothing to you, and then you go to put moisture on it. You be like, why I smell like charred? It's you. It's your hair. Yeah, turn the temperature down. Number one. Number two, be less consistent with using heat. Like, say for instance, is this time you went to get your hair done and you got a silk press? Yeah, okay. But next time, get a wash and go set. Let the curls come back. Give it a rest. You don't need to silk press every time you go get your hair did. Okay? Yeah. Not necessary. Pipe it down. Stop using heat so often. And in some cases, use it as needed. Like with my Loc clients, when it's warm, that hooded dryer, I have to cover it because it's sitting in the corner collecting dust. Because most of the time people leave here, their hair is 85, 90% dry, and the rest of it, they let outside finish doing the job. When I wash my hair, I let my hair air dry. I don't be using the dryer. I'm not in a rush. I put a day aside for wash day. Let my hair take its time to dry, and I always wash my hair during the day so it has all day long to get nice and dry before I go to bed. Never wash my hair at night because all of this is not going to be dry by that time. So I always make sure I wash my hair early in the day. Be less consistent with using heat on your hair. Okay, I'm just saying. Number three, as I said, the air is your friend. Let it air dry. Wash and set. Go outside, go for a walk. All of those. It's just so many different things that you can do that you don't need to use heat. You don't need to use a hairdryer every time you dry your hair. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. If you're natural and you're learning to embrace, that's part of the process. I'm just saying. Okay. Number 4, when you are silk pressing, number 1, if you don't know what you're doing, go to a professional. Number 2, make sure they're using the good heat protectant in your hair. Number 3, one pass will suffice. If your hair is healthy, you don't need more than one pass. So if they constantly doing that, they are killing your hair right now. One pass will do. Make sure they do small parts. And if you're doing it yourself, small sections, one pass. That's it. That's all. Okay? That is all. And the temperature does not have to be 4,000 degrees. Pipe it down. Below 300. Below 300. Okay? When you curl your hair, pin them up so they allow them the time to cool off before you let them loose. Because a lot of times people make the mistake that they curl their hair and they let them drop. And then they're like, oh, I just curled it. Look, they already dropped. Pin them up. Get some clips. Pin them bad boys up. When they cool down, then you let them down and the curls are holding. Coolness is your friend. Okay? I'm going to tell you a story. It's a sad story, but it is a story. You see this tool thing, whichever side of me is on. That's a heat gun. What is a heat gun? The heat gun is used in carpentry. If you know a person who is a contractor and they have a carpentry team or, a flooring team or painters, they might have one of those heat gun in their tool kit. The heat gun is a tool that should not be used on your hair. Okay? So a heat gun can heat up temperatures anywhere from 200 degrees all the way up to 1,000 degrees. Now the average hair dryer is 180 degrees, somewhere in there, right? And that's hot. You be like, oh, get on, right? You see how you be snatching your head when it, yeah. So imagine A heat gun at its lowest setting being pointed at your head to dry it, right? No, let me stop laughing because this is not even funny. Number one, you're risking second-degree burns to your scalp if it manages to get to your scalp. But you're definitely going to char off your hair if you use a heat gun to dry your hair. Unfortunately, in this story, this was a third-party reference question asking for a friend type situation where one of my clients asked me on behalf of their friend. She asked on his behalf if I could repair his locks because he washed his hair and attempted to use a heat gun to dry his locks because he needed to dry them fast. And he ended up charring his locks, and over time they just was, that's my cat, and they just was snapping. And unfortunately, no, I could not help him. He caused permanent damage to his locks, and they pretty much burned off. It just took longer for them to snap away because he had some ornaments in his hair that also kind of melted to his hair, and that's what was holding the hair together. But he later found out a few days later that he did suffer in a few spots second-degree burns to his scalp, which caused the hair to fall out from the scalp. And that was permanent damage to his hair follicles, and the hair will not grow back in those areas either. Shortcuts are not your friend when you are trying to heat your hair or dry your hair fast, especially when you're using something that should not be used on your hair, a heat gun. I've seen people use steamers because, they have hair steamers, but you cannot possibly believe that a clothing steamer is the same as a hair steamer. It's not. Hair steamers usually have a lukewarm mist that comes from it so that it, if it touches the skin, it doesn't burn you. Clothing steamer, no. Piping hot water. You're at the risk of, again, second, and sometimes in some cases, third-degree burns if that hot steam gets to your skin. So be mindful when using heat, not just because of the heat damage it can cause to your hair, but it can burn you and cause permanent damage to your skin, to your body tissue. Okay? It's a sad story. And the laugh was not because it was humorous. It was more of a nervous laugh. Like, I can't believe, even still, with me retelling this story, I still can't believe that person did that. And it's unfortunate that, he had to let his locks go. But yeah, be careful. No such thing as shortcuts when it comes to heat. Okay, so we're in the end. Just about. But I need you to understand something. Like I said, I made this video to educate you, to inform you, so that you proceed with caution when you are making decisions to color lift your hair with bleaching or straighten your hair with heat. Or even when you go to get natural or braids in your hair and they're dipping your hair in the hot water. All of those things can cause severe heat damage to your hair. And damage caused by bleach and or heat is not reversible. I'll say it again. Damage caused by bleach and or heat is not reversible. Don't let nobody put it in your head. Oh, we can do a keratin treatment. Keratin treatments help. Not by severe damage. They help with approaching damage. If it's severely damaged, no keratin treatment ain't going to do nothing for you. Not a thing. So be careful. Speak up. Because sometimes people will try to bulldoze over you and say, well, I'm the professional and I know what I'm talking about. The same way I told you in the beginning of this video, everything that I'm talking to you about, and I'm talking to you as a professional, it's researchable. Look it up. Check the facts. Don't just take my word for it. It's very important that you have to understand that education is about receiving the information, but it's also to follow it up with studying, okay, and moving forward from there. Don't just let anybody tell you anything. I represent a certain way of how I conduct when I am working with clients. I don't use high chemicals, so therefore bleaching is definitely not something I choose to do. Can I do it? Yes. Do I choose to? Absolutely not. High heat is something I choose not to do. Can I? Absolutely. Do I want to? No. My aesthetics is to embrace your natural hair in its most natural state. And natural hair care for me means not altering the texture of your hair. Straightening your hair is altering the texture of your hair. It is what it is. Do I stand in judgment of those who choose to continue to straighten their hair and bleach their hair? Absolutely not. You are entitled to do whatever you want to do. I just want you to make sure you've done it with your eyes wide open and nobody pulled the wool over your eyes. Okay? Because sometimes people will gatekeep and won't tell you nothing. Take your money and do what you ask them to do. And then when they oh, I can repair that. Taking more money from you to repair it. Right? Oh, we got to do this to maintain it. Taking more of your money. You're going to go in knowing everything. I've had people say, oh, it's okay if you bleach it. I'll sign a waiver. It doesn't matter to me if you sign a waiver. That's not something that I'm comfortable with doing, because if things go left, and 9 times out of 10, they do, because people don't understand the magnitude of maintenance that is behind maintaining bleached hair until they get to the point where now they see why. Yeah, no, even a waiver is not going to do it. You're welcome to go somewhere else. And if things go wrong because of the bleaching, they have to fix what they caused. I don't fix other people's problems. I don't. Like I said, I've had people come back, but not to fix what somebody else did. It was to start again, to begin again. They were like, yeah, I learned the lesson the hard way. And I'm not. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm not going to be like, oh, I told you so. No, I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry you had to learn through pain and loss. But I'm glad you learned. Now let's begin again. So, yeah. Speak up. Be your advocate. You have the information. Check the facts. Know thyself. Connect the bond with your stylist, loctician, whoever's taking care of your hair. If it's you, trust yourself with the information that you receive. Okay? And proceed with caution. That's all I ask. Proceed with caution. Now we've reached the end. So to summarize today's discussion, can bleach and/or heat damage be reversed? The answer is no. There's ways to prevent it. We've talked about those things. So make sure when you make the choice for yourself and what you would like to do with your hair, know the alternatives, know the risk, understand what it entails when it comes to maintenance and keeping up with If you're not ready for any of those things, don't proceed until you are. Okay? Thank you for joining me again for another week of Locs Talk with Pammie. Until next time.